Hideo Kojima's rise to legendary status began here with Metal Gear for the MSX. Where others created games that encouraged players to engage their enemies, Kojima intended the complete opposite. The concept was quite unorthodox for its time. As soon as the game boots, Metal Gear doesn't waste any time to throw players into the shoes of Foxhound agent Solid Snake, a rookie soldier who is tasked with the infiltration of military base Outer Heaven and the destruction of the bipedal weapon that it houses, Metal Gear. Throughout his journey, Snake will be aided by a number of allies, including legendary soldier and Foxhound leader Big Boss, along with various resistance members, who provide players with tips and hints. Save for one or two plot twists, there's not much else to it. There are no clones to take into consideration, no nanomachines to birth extravagant characters, no intricate backstory or pseudo-historical references to ponder upon. It's just a simple mission involving a rookie soldier infiltrating a base to destroy a mechanized weapon. The story was clearly intended to lay the groundwork for the gameplay and nothing more, which wasn't uncommon for a game of its time. So how does the gameplay hold up? To put it simply, it's a very fun game with some significant flaws. It's clear that at the time, Hideo Kojima could only achieve a sliver of his grand vision of the stealth genre due to hardware limitations and lack of experience. The stealth game's biggest downfall is, ironically, its stealth mechanics. They are just too simplistic to simulate the experience of infiltration. For example, soldiers can only see in a straight line, making infiltration too easy and oftentimes ridiculous looking. Soldiers also can only move around the area or screen in which they have been placed, making each little area feel like its own stage and detracting from making Outer Heaven feel like one giant unified stage. But perhaps the worst thing about Metal Gear's stealth mechanics is the detection system. Once players are detected, oftentimes sliding over to another screen will do the trick. If not, players can simply resort to finding an elevator or killing all the enemies within the current screen, which is pretty easy to do considering that during alert mode, all guards do is frantically run around like chickens without their heads. And when you combine this with the fact that soldiers can only stay in one area in their designated screen, it makes detection all the more inconsequential. Honestly, detection bears so little consequence that it's often faster, easier, and more productive to run around without a care in the world, especially in later portions of the game when players are given rations and ammunition aplenty. Now, the game isn't purely stealth since there are some sections which force players to engage the enemy, most notably during boss battles. Unfortunately, the game's somewhat stiff and at times unresponsive controls make the action portions difficult to enjoy. Also disappointing is how easy boss battles are. In my experience, most battles could be beaten by hiding in an area within the battlefield outside the range of bosses' attacks, and then using the game's remote-controlled rockets, easy as pie. And while there are certain bosses that can only be beaten with another specific weapon, even then bosses in Metal Gear only have one attack with one simple pattern, so the most difficult thing about these battles ended up being figuring out the right weapon to use, and that part really isn't that hard either since players can easily deduce or guess their way through. Admittedly, the battle against Metal Gear does require some multitasking due to the fact that the boss has to be attacked in a very specific sequence, but I found this gimmick to make the boss battle longer, not necessarily more challenging. It's a shame really because some bosses look pretty formidable, but don't act anywhere close to it. Fortunately, balancing out the weak stealth mechanics and the easy boss battles is a great world design. Outer Heaven is comprised of 3 main buildings, each housing many rooms and doors that can only be opened with designated keycards. Finding a keycard will allow players to open these rooms and doors, and these doors may lead to the discovery of new items, weapons, prisoners, intel, and passages that allow players to progress further into Outer Heaven, which could in turn lead players to finding other keycards, which could lead to more items, weapons, prisoners, intel, and passages, and this cycle continues to the very end. It's a very smart system that not only yields an intricate and satisfying world progression, but also a satisfying character progression, as finding new items and weapons will make Solid Snake more powerful and versatile, and finding prisoners will increase Snake's class to a maximum of 4 stars, allowing him to wield more consumable items and ammunition. Metal Gear may not make a great stealth game, but it does make a fantastic adventure game. Outer Heaven almost feels like a lost Zelda dungeon. The game world constantly encourages players to explore every nook and cranny to find the necessary items and intel to delve deeper into the fortress, all while having to avoid deadly traps. And while the stealth mechanics are somewhat poor, it does add enough to the experience to make the adventure within Outer Heaven feel constantly dangerous and risky. I do have to criticize some of the guesswork that is involved with the game's progression, however, since it can result in situations where players know what to do, but don't know how to do it. Also, some of the game's backtracking can get annoying at times, especially with the way keycards work. Instead of allowing high-level keycards to be used for lower-level doors, players are forced to use specific keycards for specific doors, resulting in unnecessary time spent sorting through the game's 8 different cards. But some guesswork and annoying backtracking aside, it is a blast to infiltrate the intricate and well-thought-out Outer Heaven. Metal Gear's world design really does make up for a lot of its flaws, and it's also easy to admire that in its time, Metal Gear showed off the potential that the stealth genre had in gaming's future. You could say that Metal Gear is the prototype for Kojima's grand vision of the stealth genre, and as most of us know, it only gets better from here. That is it for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to let our nation know in the comments below what you think of Metal Gear if you've played through this game. If you haven't played the game, then be sure to head over to my secondary channel, Yong Plays, where you'll find an entire Let's Play series of this game. And for more reviews, be sure to join the nation and subscribe to Yong Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you very much, and Yong out!